Have you ever noticed a quiet contradiction that appears on the inner path? People describe profound moments of connection, a feeling of deep unity with all of life. They cultivate stillness, they seek wisdom, and yet in the same breath, a question often surfaces: why do I feel so separate in my search for connection with another? It is as if a single drop of water, having remembered it is part of the vast ocean, then begins to worry about finding another drop to flow with. From a space of deep awareness, we can observe this without judgment. This feeling of solitude, this sense of standing apart from the familiar currents of romance, is not a sign that you have taken a wrong turn. It is a landmark on the journey. When you understand its meaning, you will see that what feels like a barrier is, in truth, a doorway to a depth of connection that was previously unimaginable. Let us explore this together. Let's talk about the nature of love, and why, for those whose inner eyes have begun to open, the old ways of seeking it no longer feel true. If this journey of self-discovery and authentic connection resonates with you, I invite you to join our community. Subscribe to this channel and walk this path with us. By sharing and liking this, you help this message find others who may need to hear it. Now, more than ever, we need these reminders. Declare this for yourself right now as a reminder of your innate completeness. In the comments below, write this with intention. Nas amleadou waltz, and what our culture often calls love is, if we look closely, an unspoken agreement. It is an arrangement rooted in a sense of inner scarcity. We are given a story from a young age that you are an incomplete half, searching for your missing piece. That only when you find this special person will you finally feel whole and worthy. It is a compelling myth, and many build their entire lives upon its foundation. So we begin a lifelong search, not for a partner, but for a solution to our own perceived emptiness. We present curated versions of ourselves, practicing the right words and the right smiles, all while hiding a deep, seated fear of being overlooked, of being left alone with the very emptiness we are trying to escape. This is the dance many mistake for love. Two individuals, each believing they are not enough, hoping the other holds the key to their fulfillment. And for a time, this dance can feel exhilarating. The intensity, the constant focus on another person, the intoxicating feeling of being chosen. We describe this as falling in love, and the word itself is telling. To fall is a passive act, something that happens to you like stumbling into a ditch. And what powers this fall? Not love, but need. A profound, urgent need to be validated. A need to have our existence affirmed by another's gaze. A need to find refuge from the quiet discomfort of our own company. On the surface, it has all the appearances of romance, the grand gestures, the poetry, the promises. But beneath the surface, it is often two people using each other as shields against a shared fear. Now, here is where the path begins to shift. As your awareness deepens, you start to perceive the subtle mechanics behind this game. You begin to recognize how much of what you once called passion was fueled by an undercurrent of anxiety. How much of what felt like devotion was actually a silent negotiation. I will be your refuge if you will be mine. Once you see this, truly see it, you cannot return to your previous perspective. It is like watching a river and suddenly understanding its source in the distant mountains. You can still appreciate the beauty of the current, but you are no longer captivated solely by its surface. This is why those who are awakening find it challenging to engage in love in the conventional way, not because their hearts have grown cold. Quite the contrary, they have become more sensitive, but because they can no longer participate in a shared illusion. They see the unseen forces at play. They hear the silent needs beneath the beautiful words. They recognize the whole drama for what it is, a sincere but misguided attempt by two people to fill an inner void that can only be filled from within. But this is the great discovery. When you turn your attention inward, you find something remarkable. You are not empty. The void you feared was an illusion. The loneliness you tried so hard to escape was a story you were told. The truth, as ancient wisdom has always taught, is that you are not a fraction seeking wholeness. You are wholeness itself, experiencing this moment through the unique form that is you. You are as complete in this breath as you will ever be. The belief that another person can complete you is like a tree believing it needs another tree to become wood. It is already wood. It was always wood. And when this realization takes root within you, something profound changes. The urgent hunger to find someone, anyone, to fill that space begins to subside. You stop seeing every person as a potential savior. You cease measuring your interactions based on what they might lead to, because you are no longer searching for what you already possess. You are already whole. This understanding brings with it an immense sense of freedom. There is a deep peace in not needing another's approval to feel valid. But this freedom also comes at a cost. The cost is that you can no longer participate in the old game. You cannot pretend to be swept away by currents you can now see so clearly. This is the source of this unique loneliness. It is not the loneliness of being without company. You can sit in stillness for hours and feel a deep sense of peace. This is the loneliness of perspective. It is the loneliness of one who has journeyed to a mountaintop and now sees the valley below with a new clarity. The people in the valley are engaged in their lives, and you feel a deep compassion for them, but you cannot return to seeing the world only from their vantage point. You meet people. They may be charming, intelligent, kind, and in a previous chapter of your life, the familiar story would begin to write itself. But now, you see the entire arc of that story before it even starts. You see the initial intoxication, the eventual friction of unmet needs, the slow, painful discovery that neither person can provide what the other is truly seeking, because what they seek is already within themselves. And so you find yourself pausing. This is not a hesitation born from fear, but from insight. You cannot willingly drink from a cup when you know its contents will not quench your true thirst. This pause, this inability to dive into the old dramas, sets you apart. Others can sense it. They feel that you are moving to a different rhythm, which can be unsettling for them or intriguing. But in either case, a subtle distance is created. What the journey of awakening asks of you is an elevation of your standard for connection. Before, you might have been content with someone who shared your interests or made you laugh. Now, that is not enough. You find yourself listening for something else, something deeper. You are searching for a shared resonance. You are looking for someone who has also looked within themselves, someone who also knows they are already whole, someone who is not unconsciously seeking to use you to complete their own puzzle. Because only when two whole beings meet can they truly see each other, not as projections, saviors, or remedies for loneliness, but as two unique expressions of the same unified existence. Like two rivers that have traveled different paths, but both recognize in each other the nature of water. And this presents a challenge. Individuals who walk this path of awareness are not common. Most are still deeply immersed in the old story, sincerely searching for their other half, defining their worth through their relationships, playing the game with profound conviction. And you hold no judgment for this. You once played that same game. But the truth remains that the number of people who can meet you at this new depth is smaller. Where once there seemed to be countless potential connections, now there are few. Where you might have been drawn to a smile or a sharp mind, now you seek something more. You seek the presence of another who is also awake to their own inner world. This is why many on a path of awareness find themselves walking alone for a time. It is not that they are incapable of love. It is that they are no longer willing to settle for a transaction and call it love. They have outgrown the old stories, like a musician who has learned to hear a symphony and can no longer be satisfied with a single note. They need something with more depth, more truth, and sometimes that true resonance does not appear for a long while. Years may pass. You will meet many people, share meaningful moments, but few will touch that core place where you now live. And so, you may find yourself alone, not with bitterness or despair, but in a state of quiet integrity, waiting, but not with expectation, waiting for another who speaks the silent language of the heart. There is a quiet dignity in this solitude. You are no longer willing to trade your clarity for companionship. You would rather stand in your truth, even if it means standing by yourself, than kneel in a shared illusion. But it is not always simple. There are moments when the quiet feels heavy, when you question your path, when you see others in their familiar dramas and compromises and wonder if that might be an easier way to leave. You may wonder if your clarity has cost you too much, and in a way it has. It has cost you the comfort of illusion. It has cost you the ability to use another as an escape from yourself. It has cost you the option of not knowing what you now know. These are real losses, and at times they can feel immense. But here is what you must understand with your whole being. You cannot go back. Even if you tried to wear the old masks and play the old parts, your heart would not be in it. The awakening has occurred. You have tasted something authentic. Once you have drunk pure spring water, the sweetened drinks of the marketplace lose their appeal. So what is there to do? You continue to live from your center. You continue to grow, to learn, to embrace the richness of your own being. Your heart does not close, it opens wider. You simply recognize that true love, for you, must now spring from a different source. It must come not from need, but from fullness. Not from fear, but from freedom. Not from the desperate clutching of two incomplete halves, but from the spacious, joyful meeting of two who are already whole. And perhaps this connection comes. Perhaps one day you meet another who has walked a similar path, who carries a familiar stillness, who looks at you and sees not a solution, but a companion in the great mystery of life. Someone who does not need you, and therefore is free to truly choose you. When that happens, it is unlike the old experience of falling. There is no fever, no grasping. Instead, there is a deep recognition, a meeting of equals, two beings already at peace within themselves, choosing to share their peace, because it is a joyous expression of the very freedom they have found. This kind of love does not bind or demand. It simply flows. It is love without an agenda. But again, such a meeting is rare. There is no guarantee it will happen in this lifetime. You must make peace with this possibility. You must be willing to walk your path alone, if that is what your integrity demands. The alternative is to betray your own inner knowing, and that is a price too high to pay. You have seen what is behind the curtain, and you cannot pretend the play is real anymore. So, you carry this awareness, this gift of clarity, in a world that is often asleep. And yes, it can be a lonely path at times, but you would not trade it, because you have discovered true freedom. And freedom is worth any price. Those who are awake do not find love in the old ways, not because love has left them, but because they have redefined love itself as truth. They have stopped confusing attachment with connection, hunger with passion. In doing so, they have opened a space for something far more real to enter their lives. A connection that may arrive tomorrow or in a decade, or may already be present in forms you are just learning to recognize. But regardless of what happens externally, they know this truth in their bones. They are already whole. And that inner knowing is more precious than any fleeting romance. It is better to be alone in your truth than to be coupled in a beautiful illusion. This is the challenge of awakening, and it is also its greatest reward. You lose the desire to lose yourself in another, but you gain the capacity to find yourself more deeply. You lose the comfort of mutual need, but you gain the unshakable peace of self-sufficiency. You move beyond the old story of romance and open yourself to the possibility of a love that is not a feeling, but a state of being. And if you never find a single partner to share it with, you still have the love itself, because it was never in them to begin with. It was always within you. Commit to this journey of self-realization, as it is the foundation for all true connection. If these reflections serve your path, I invite you to subscribe, to continue exploring this inner landscape with us. Each subscription, each like, and each share creates a stronger current of awareness in the world. Yes, your circle may become smaller, the journey may be quieter, but you are also more free than you have ever been. Free to love without needing to possess. Free to connect without clinging. Free to be your authentic self. And that freedom, that vast, peaceful spaciousness, is what you were always searching for. Not in another person, but within your own heart, where it has always been.